So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business podcast series. With me today, I have Rob Pinkerton from Adobe, who is a customer experience management expert across at Adobe. But hi, Rob. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Adrian. It's good to be here.
What I wanted to do, Rob, if it's okay with you, is first of all just to ask you to tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to be, let's say, customer obsessive.
Sure. So I am currently I'm senior director for product marketing for customer experience management at Adobe, which is a traditional kind of product marketing role for some of our enterprise products that we provide to help in large-scale enterprises improve how customers or citizens, in the case of government, experience their services. I came to this path actually by way of the government, where experience is often one that is not fully enjoyed.
Right.
The long line you may have stayed in at some point, but often is exceptionally important. Often our government agencies are trusted with very solemn duties to help people in need, people at risk, people get access to opportunity, and the experience that they have with their institutions can often help them or not help them, according to a certain government agency's mission. And I spent a long time both working in government and then working with Silicon Valley companies, helping government agencies build software that really help everyone, right? That help people who often were the lowest common denominator in the digital transformation. Along the way, everyone, the lowest common denominator went away. Everyone started to become democratized with technology, and the requirement for a good experience became mandatory for all enterprises. Like even on the commercial side, they could no longer pick and choose the customers that they wanted to serve well, versus those they don't invest as much in if they're not as good a customer. And so a lot of the lessons that we learned over the years and helping to build great software experiences in the government side started to become much more applicable than the consumer side, because IT has been democratized or consumerized, depending on how you talk about. And so also became very passionate about the role that experience can play and how people make decisions, how they purchase things, receive services, whatever. So that's kind of who I am and where I've come from. And
Okay.
Today I'm having a lot of fun helping solve these problems with Adobe.
And so, as senior director of product marketing, what does that mean? I mean, what is it that you actually do? Are you out there sort of beating the drum and engaging people and talking to them about sort of customer experience, or what is it what's your primary role within Adobe?
So I work in one of Adobe's R&D centers, and I'm responsible for marketing the products that we bring to market. That includes helping to define the market requirements, like prioritizing where we invest and really help to go solve substantial, repeatable, high-impact problems, and understanding really what the core nature of the problems are so that we differentiate ourselves and differentiate our customers. It involves a lot of communicating, a lot of outbound evangelism, a lot of helping other people understand and crystallize the opportunity for technology to differentiate. And it also involves a lot of understanding broad market dynamics, trying to anticipate the future of where things will go so that we make the right investments to capitalize on shifts in the market and really help our customers be successful.
Okay. And I mean, customer experience and customer experience management, they seem to be really high on the agenda, or are rapidly rising up the agenda right now for businesses, whether they are large or small, or even in the in the public sector where it's governments or charities, and that whole experience debate and issue is it sort of seems to be ever present. Well, why do you think that is, and what is changing around us to drive that?
So I think there's been a significant change on the consumer side of software that has a material impact on the business side or on the enterprise side. And that change is that people who use software, people who sit in front of a screen, whether they're an employee, a customer, or citizen, have been significantly retrained over the last 5 years by consumer trends. And if you think about it in kind of a and the significance of that change either represents a significant opportunity for some businesses who are trying to capitalize on that opportunity to grow, or a threat to businesses because their competitor has figured out that it's an opportunity. And the way that people have been retrained, you think about it in just our basic everyday lives, like things like comfort and education and entertainment and how we take care of our personal fitness. We have been retrained in how we do basic things, right? I mean, 5 years, 6 years ago, if you wanted to go from one place to another, you used a map. You had to figure out where you were, you had to figure out where you wanted to go, and you had to figure out how to navigate it.
Sure.
Now you've been retrained to use a screen, and you don't even need to know where you are, how to get there. You just need to know where you want to go. You plug in the coordinates, and you're guided there in the middle of the night by a sexy Australian voice.
Yeah.
In entertainment, just 5 years ago, the number one video game in the world was I think it was called Half-Life, right? Which is a great button mashing, fun game that people really played. But you had to become an expert in this very complicated set of controls to really understand how to use it.
Yeah.
Today, the top games come from Wii and Xbox Connect, and you just have to stand in front of a TV screen, and something monitors your body movement, and all you really have to know how to do is move, right? Everyone knows how to do that. Your expectation in front of the screen has changed. Education, time you expected, if you wanted to learn something, you had to go buy a book or a guide or something that was aggregated by someone else who told you what you needed to know. Now, it's all disaggregated. You can go online and you can get expert advice from the actual experts on any topic anywhere in the world, downloaded, a curriculum defined by yourself by the absolute best. And so, across every aspect of the consumer world, we've all been inherently retrained to assume that when we step in front of a screen, things should start to morph to our desires, right? Rather than learning button mashing controls, we should be able to, the screen should be able to simulate our behavior. And that same phenomenon, how we've been retrained, applies to regular business, right? When you go to a bank, when you go to a government agency, people's expectations are that things are going to change, and they're not unfounded, because they also have the skills that if you want to map to those skills, a business can really take advantage of that skill set. And the ones that have figured it out are increasing the priority for customer experience management, and the ones that haven't figured it out are scared right now because their competitors have, and they're trying to catch up.
So, so it seems to me that it's fascinating, and I love that you're taking it around sort of it's how we're being retrained. And I guess my question would be is, do you think that's being led by people or led by technology, or is it a symbiosis of the two, and they're feeding off each other right now and sort of pushing the envelope, as it were, and therefore increasing expectations in our broader life?
Well, yes, I think it's both, right? I think a lot of the experience problems that people are trying to solve and that the industry are trying to solve have in fact been created by technology, right?
Yeah.
In fact, every company, every government agency right now has a customer experience that they provide. They have a platform of customer experience, whether it's intentional or not, right? And it may be one that was designed over 10, 15 years of time, and it's cobbled together by customers every time they experience a business or an agency, and it may seem like a random mosaic of data structures and business process management systems and organizational structure, and it may not be intentional, but they do in fact provide a customer experience that may or may not be good. How they fix that is often going to be resolved through both technology, but also an insight into what customers actually need, right? And that is very much a reorientation of thinking from kind of inside out to outside in.
Sure.
And that's not just about technology. That's a discipline. That's a different set of skill sets and techniques.
Yeah, no, because I think that's a really interesting point, and it sort of leads me on to my next question, which is, it's what if we did a brief sort of survey or overview of what all of the chatter around the customer experience management or just customer experience sort of online and offline, a lot of people are talking about technology. But then, and you work for a technology company, but then you wrote a post actually, which I really liked, which was back in February, which was, "In the future, people rule the world." Which I thought was really interesting, and I guess my question is customer experience management, is it about technology? It's not about technology, or what is it all about?
Yeah, well, and that's because it's about using technology in the right way to support what people need, right, and what your customers want, and that's going to be very different, very unique, depending on what the business goal may be, what the government mission may be. And so it's not about technology, right? It is about the customer. It is about the community. It is about context. Right?
Yes.
And ultimately, technology can enable or disable the ability to really provide great customer experience based on people, based on community, based on context. But the reason why everyone talks about technology is because it's something that is easier you can buy technology. It's something you feel like you solved your problem, right? It's a lot harder to really try to understand the abstract, seemingly random behavior of your customer. But there's no choice in this matter, right? In fact, and this is like deep systematic problems. Most enterprises, most businesses, most organizations are built upon a set of rules that have been in place for 60 years.
Sure.
Right? Emanated from the era of Mad Men and Madison Avenue, and the belief that people make decisions based on an iterative process, right? We have to make them aware, then they have to narrow down a set of choices. But today, the number one decision criteria for someone to buy something is advocacy, right? There's no marketing programs that are really out there, no long-standing Harvard business curriculum on advocacy in the same way there are for like advertising and promotions and customer service and some things like that. It's just been a complete paradigm shift. Technology is easy to talk about.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. You say there's a paradigm shift, and I think that's the thing that's really scaring sort of people, and it's in so much as that, yeah, you can buy a system and you can buy a new piece of machinery, and you can buy a new website or a new CRM system or whatever it might be, but actually you can't buy good relationships with your customers. You can't buy high employee engagement. You can't buy the sort of the soft, intangible stuff. And that seems to be the thing that it's just that's the real shift, as it were, because it was more a case of we're moving away from being a purely scientific, if you like, tailorist sort of model of, if you like, almost like mass production, the madman style, as it were. If we make it, yep, and we tell as many people as we can in as many places and as frequently as you possibly can, we have the marketing budget to support it, we're likely to win. That model's kind of broken now, it seems. So it seems to me that
it is. You can't buy loyalty anymore.
No. So, which is a real challenge, but and particularly when you look at it from a perspective of most of the people that are running larger companies are the larger, more successful companies and executives, it's almost they're from that era where it was, they're the baby boomers, as it were. And this is almost quite a challenging thing for that, if you like, the board level, the CEO's office, because it is a real paradigm shift. They've grown up with a business that works in a certain way, but now it's just flipped. So I guess my question is like, so if you have to flip the organization and create something which is much, much more customer centric, does it start at the board level? Does it start at the CEO's office, or does it start through more guerrilla individual efforts in different departments across the organization?
Well, it's a great question, because it's probably both, and it's an interesting. I don't know if I would give the same answer if you asked me the same question a year ago or 2 years ago. Like, we've been kind of circling this opportunity for several years at Adobe, and we've known this is going to happen. We just don't know exactly when it's going to happen. And and our own research tells us that in 2011, 3 out of 4 chief marketing officers are reorganizing their staffs, right? Reorganizing their departments to become more digitally capable.
Yeah.
Right. And that tells me that it is a significant level problem, enough that it's coming from the top down, and that people and senior level officials in companies are saying this is a much more expensive problem, a much bigger opportunity than we've been giving credit for it. But a year ago, I would have told you, and I would still tell you this today, some of the best examples come from independent efforts, right? People who have figured out ways to innovate, ways to bring technology practices, their own skill sets into an enterprise to make a difference, because there's a lot more accessibility to leveraging experience-driven strategies. I mean, because people have been trained every day, right? To go use Facebook, understand what Amazon does, make it simple, make it easy, and applying those lessons. And great examples out there of kind of independently driven or skunkworks projects that drive an organization.
And it seems to me one of the things that I sort of believe is that there's a lot of organizations, whether they're large or small, and the board level or the CEO's office, they'll say that we are a customer-led organization, or we pride ourselves on our customer service, and we have great offers and great customers, etc., etc. But then they can fail to deliver consistently on the ground. And my belief is that actually there's like a sandwich, as it were, or like a three-legged stool, as I like to call it. Is if you want to create something which is a customer-centric organization, you have to have the right sort of leadership, the right sort of customers and offer and community and engagement there. But you also have to have the right level of employee engagement. And in a way, there are a set of internal customers. So do you see that whole employee engagement as a thing that is also rising up the agenda, and that almost complicates the picture in a way?
Oh yeah, I mean a three-legged stool is a good way to think about it, right? Because it's not just about participating in a digital medium, right? I mean, customer experience transcends every customer touch point. And if you have a call center driven business, or you have a service that is highly interactive or has assisted self-service requirements, I mean, these experience can break down at any point of interaction.
Sure.
And it is very important. It's very important what type of customers and services you have, right? I mean, just sticking with the government examples I always use here in the U.S., the customers are very different for the agency that supports veterans, right? Who are all at this point, very many of them young and coming back from combat and have very high technical skills, versus the agency that supports senior health care. I mean, they're just a very different experience that they expect, and leadership, employees, customers, you have to be cognizant across the board. There's not like a one-size-fits-all customer experience.
Which, again, I guess if you are giving people more leeway or more flexibility in dealing with these problems that are going to come up organically and you can't necessarily plan for them, then again that challenges the whole, this is how we've run our business before, and it's very much silo driven, and it's very much, specific and limited job descriptions, etc., etc. And so I guess there's a culture that's changing outside the business, but then there's also a need to change the culture inside the business, right?
That's right. And it's a little bit scary or exciting depending on your perspective. But change represents opportunity for someone. And in the technology world, right, part of why there's so much noise around technology, why there's so much interest on the technology side, is because you've got a lot of folks who in technology who see change as an opportunity to innovate, to do something special, and they see what's happening right now,
Sure.
and they're running to the opportunity.
So, that's, yeah, absolutely. I think we are. Do you agree that this change has been sort of growing in sort of, if you like, stature and noise and momentum over the last few years, but actually we haven't seen anything yet, and that actually we're on the cusp of the real paradigm shift in terms of, and it'll be the next sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years where we'll see massive changes in how businesses operate and engage and do all sorts of interesting and cool things, or not?
No, I do. I think the next several years are going to be more and more and more interesting. And I think you can just see the impact outside of traditional business, right? We're at a point now where it's not about just experience management. It's just about the ability to communicate and how people make decisions and learn and process things quickly. It's destabilizing governments in the Middle East because
Sure.
For the first time, not only does everyone have the ability to communicate, but they understand immediately how everyone else feels at the same time because of social networks and mobile.
Yeah.
And now they say, wow, not only do I not like living here, no one else does. And now actually, I can make connections and do something about it, right? That's a macro level phenomenon that's changing the world. At a micro level, it will continue to change businesses. It will continue to create new opportunities.
So if I was to ask you that, so if a company was to, their CEO wakes up in a sweat kind of like one night and has this flash of this vision that the world is changing, and they know that they need to, they're being a bit slow off the mark, and they need to change the way they do things because the old ways are not going to last, are not going to be sustainable. In your experience, what would be the thing that you would say to that CEO and say, this is the first thing that you should think about doing?
Well, so I'll give you a general answer, and then I'll give you an Adobe slanted answer.
Okay.
And the general answer is, the first thing to do is to actually go experience something for yourself. Right? There's no substitute for actually taking a walk in the shoes of how a customer actually experiences, how a customer experiences your own products and services in the digital domain or that of a competitor's, right?
Right.
Because that CEO has probably been retrained at some level over the last 5 years as well, right?
Yeah.
He or she, right? He or she knows that things could potentially be better. It's always important to apply it to oneself. But, the Adobe, obviously, when I say the Adobe answer, I have a point of view based on what Adobe can also do to help, right? We certainly encourage our customers on the technology side to look at some of the basic ways they've structured this problem in congruency, right? From a technology perspective, what we tell CEO or whoever wakes up with a point of view is you've probably already got programs to buy technology to support social, to support changing your business processes to be more dynamic, to provide richer, more dynamic content in like an application way framework, to optimize and analyze what you're doing in this new experience-driven way so you understand and you have feedback. You're probably doing something already, and if you're doing something already, you should assess that if it's really the right approach, because siloing out by technology buckets actually isn't going to give you a holistic experience. You should look at these things in congruency, right? We've used the 4 examples I just gave. I mean, that's what's happened in the consumer world.
Yeah.
So the 4 were process, social, content, and analytics. In the social world, Facebook is a great success, right? Because they figured out how to make the friend-making process easier. It begat a social community of people who wanted to make friends, who created all kinds of interesting content and applications that propagated and grew, and they created a feedback loop so they could improve what they're doing. Similar with YouTube, right? They made the movie-making process easier, and by making that easier, begat a social crowd of folks who like to make movies that created all kinds of rich content and applications and created a feedback loop to improve the service that they provided. And it's a similar thing with Wikipedia or any sort of consumer side success. The question is, can you apply that to a business and generate the same sort of phenomenon? And we think you can.
So I guess what I would suggest that from your answer there, one of the first things you would say is that if you're a CEO and you've woken up from that with a start sort of in the middle of the night, then first thing to do is get out and experience some stuff. Get out from behind your desk and go out and sort of experience the world from the perspective of your customers, and not necessarily stay in your own sort of backyard, but have a look at what your competitors are doing and look at sort of adjacent markets and actually go out and, if you like, start feeling what's going on around there, because only when you get that, if you like, connection, then do you actually start building the sort of the empathy and the real understanding is what it is that people really, really want and how you can deliver that.
You got it.
Fantastic. It's good to know that you guys are making some big moves in this space. Well, we seem to have lost Rob. Thank you very much, Rob, for joining us. That's been the Rare Business Podcast. Thanks to Rob Pinkerton from Adobe. Let me know what you think about our conversation in the comments below. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.